Welcome back to my Valerie Stewart portrait video series. In this segment, we're going to cover skin color application. We'll go through a variety of different skin types and give you basic ideas on how to execute skin color application on each of your paintings beautifully. Enjoy! Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the Caucasian skin tone. It's really pretty basic. It's pretty much like every other skin tone that you're going to do. So you can just follow along with me. I've done my burnt umber underpainting on this. Put all my shadows in, including the mouth. I went ahead and just put the eyes in just brown. You can do that, it's not a problem. Okay, what we're going to do, we mixed our skin colors, and you're going to take that basic skin color. I'm not going to remix them now since I've already mixed them for you on this video. But you're going to take your basic skin color, which is rose madder, cad orange, and raw sienna, and white together. And this is going to go over all the skin lightly to tint the canvas. Now, I don't want you to use a lot of paint. I want you to use just enough paint to cover and to tint the canvas. Kind of like a woman wearing foundation makeup. She puts it on there lightly and tints her skin. It evens out the skin tone. Well, that's what we're going to do. I'm not using a lot of oil. I'm actually at this point not using any oil. And I'm just going to go right over the skin. And this will go down on the neck, the face. You can go right over the lips. I don't bother going over the eyes or anything. Hear that scrubby motion? That's because I'm just scrubbing this on. If you put too much paint on at this point, what you'll end up with is, I'm going to keep my hand out of your way. What you'll end up with is the paint will be kind of slippery, and when you go to add your lights and your darks and your pretty colors, your paint will tend to slide around, and you don't want that. So you're going to keep it pretty dry. I don't go over the eyeball, but I definitely get right up to it on the eyelid. I'm using a nylon brush. You can use a bristle brush to do this if you want to. Sometimes that helps a little bit better to scrub this paint on here. And get it on as smoothly as you can. Down here on the shoulder. Same thing. This is going to go over all skin. So if you have ears showing, you want to put it on the ears. If you have neck showing, if you have arms showing, legs showing, whatever, you want to put this color on all skin. That's your operative word there, skin. If you need to, when you're putting this on, if it's not going on very, very easily, you can use a drop of oil in your paint, and it will help to move it a little bit more. Just be really careful. If you get too much oil, you're going to create trouble for yourself. Like I said, your paint will get real slippery. Okay, now we've got our basic skin color on there. So we're going to reinforce our lights, reinforce our darks, and reinforce our pretty colors. So you can start with any one of those colors. If you feel most comfortable reinforcing the lights first, that's fine. You can do that. I usually do start with the lights just because they're easy to see. And our highlight color is white with a little bit of Naples yellow. We're going to come everywhere where we want more highlight, and we're going to reinforce that with our white and Naples yellow. And I usually just lay this color in here. I don't get real involved in blending or softening. I lay it in wherever I want it. And I'm going to use my pretty colors, or those blush tones, to come back and soften the edges of these highlights. So just lay them in there. This is going to bring her face forward in these areas. Look at your original. Your original is going to tell you where these highlights need to be. A little bit under the lip here. Usually the chin, the nose, the forehead, the cheeks, those are the areas that typically have the highlight color. Over here and over here. And a little bit under the eyes. And then of course on the neck and the shoulders, there's going to be highlight as well. That collarbone up, top of the shoulder. And then if I find later that I have missed a place where I need more highlight, I can come back to that. I'm not stuck with only what I've done. In other words, just because you stop and you move on to say the dark skin tones or the pretty colors doesn't mean you can't come back and add more highlight. Okay, now I'm going to put my dark skin tones in. Now the reason that I do this in this order, I usually put the dark skin tones in next because they're the easiest to see. And then the pretty colors, which are your rose madder, cad orange, those go where the darks and the lights marry. So it's a little easier to define where those are going to be. Okay, we're going to put some dark skin color right in here. And our dark skin color is rose madder, cad orange, raw sienna, and dioxazine purple. If it looks too purple, you can add a little more of the rose madder, cad orange to it. Although I like the purple tone, especially in the skin. She has shadow right here on her face that's created from the hair. Neck. And a little bit over here under the hair. Okay, and then we're going to use our pretty colors, which is rose madder and cad orange, and I'm going to soften that color by adding a little bit of white to it. We want it like a blush color. And this is going to go everywhere where the skin has some warmth, some blush to it. This puts the blood under the skin. Helps the person to look alive. And here. And then if I need to soften the edges of my highlights, I'm just going to go like this and just kind of tickle the edge of the highlight with a little bit of this pretty color, and it'll soften it down. Here, this is a shadowy area, but it's not super dark, so I didn't use my real dark shadow color. I'm just using the pretty color over the burnt umber underpainting, and I get a really nice soft shadow there. Same with right here. I don't want this too black. She'll look like she has a mustache, so just use a little of that pretty color over that burnt umber underpainting. I'm just going to soften the edges of my highlights now. Press them into the canvas. And this area right here, excuse me, below the shoulder. Now, we have those colors on. Now I'm going to do some more detailing. We want to go ahead and do our eyes, our nose, and our mouth. And get my little Zero Sable. Use a nice little Zero Sable flat for this. I'm going to start with my darkest skin tone. And I'm going to put some shadows here in the nose where the nostrils are. Get those nostrils defined a little bit. The nostrils lay really flat. They're not real round circles as a rule. Of course, you need to look at your original to see if that's the case for you, but as a rule, they lay pretty flat. Get these little detailed shadows in. A little shadow for the smile line. This is just my dark skin tone. And here. Now, we'll move up to the eyes and we'll do those. You're going to use Burnt Umber for your eyelash line. Oops. That's this line here. And when you're painting the eyes, what you want to do is you want to paint here and then move over and do it here. If you don't do them at the same time, what will happen is you'll end up with them slightly different. It's hard to match them if you don't have the same paint on your brush at the same time. I'm going to use my dark skin tone for the eyelid line. That's this line here, the crease above the eye. And here. Crease above the eye. Now her eyes are blue, so I'm going to Well, I'll start with my Payne's Gray first and put the pupil in. The pupil goes in the center of the eye. It touches the upper lid. Should be perfectly round, just like that, and fairly large. If you make it too small, it'll make her look kind of sinister. So we want her to look soft. So we're going to make her pupil larger, and it'll create a softer look to her face and to the eye, more innocent. I'm going to use a little bit of Payne's Gray and a little Cerulean Blue together to put the blue in the eye. Now I'm going darker than I need to go because she does have a dark ring around her eye. So if I start darker and then highlight it in the center, it gives me that dark ring around the outside of the iris. So I'm going to put that blue, this is Cerulean Blue and Payne's Gray, right in there. Pull this eye down a little bit here. And then I'm going to take my white and I'm going to put the gleam in the eye, and this is going to go at 2 o'clock where the pupil and the iris come together. 2 o'clock on each eye. And then I'm going to take that white again and I'm going to come around the pupil, across from the gleam, and put I call this the secondary highlight. It's like a light that's reflecting through the eye and creating a nice blue. See how that leaves the edge of the eyeball dark? So you get that natural ring around the eye. Okay, the whites of the eyes are always a dirty white. You don't want to use pure white. If you use pure white, it'll look too bright and the eye will look kind of buggy. So I use white with a little tiny bit of Payne's Gray and a little tiny bit of Burnt Umber and make kind of a gray color and put that in for the white of the eye. I can always brighten this up at the bottom as I need to. Dirty white for the white of the eye. Payne's Gray, white, and Burnt Umber. The Burnt Umber keeps the Payne's Gray from looking too blue. If you just use Payne's Gray and white, the white of the eye would look real blue. I need to define her lower lid a little bit. I'm going to use a very soft, fleshy color to do that. I don't want to use a hard color. If you make it too dark, it'll make her look hard. So just use a very soft, fleshy color to define the lower lid. Okay, and use your pretty color for the tear duct. Put a little bit of pretty color in there to create that pink in the tear duct. And then you can use some white for a little shine. You can give a little gleam to the tear duct area. Try not to do too much. And the whites of the eyes, you can brighten those up just by putting a highlight on the white of the eye. So I'm going to come right down here at the bottom. You want to leave the white of the eye darker toward the top because those lashes cast a shadow on the eye. But down here toward the bottom, we can put some highlight. And that makes the eyes liven up a little bit. Try not to get it too awful bright. Okay. And of course I need to stand back and look at it and see if my eyes are square or not, or excuse me, are round enough or not. But that's an advantage that you have working at home that I don't have right now, so I'll do that in a minute. Now you're going to take burnt umber, and you're going to add just a tiny bit of thinner to it. And this is how you're going to put the lashes on. You go ahead and you wet your lash line with your burnt umber, and then you're going to pull out and up, out and up. And I spread these pretty far apart at first. Then if I spread them apart, then if they get too long, I can come in between and make